Have you ever left a woman and felt something was missing, something invisible, but real? Not your time, not your money, something deeper, something harder to name. It's like your presence shrank, like your energy was drained and you don't know how or why. She didn't argue. She didn't even raise her voice. She just looked at you, smiled, walked away, and somehow, in that quiet, she walked off with your power. How does that happen? Because here's the truth no one wants to admit. Women don't outplay you with words. They don't overpower you with logic. They outlast you with silence. They watch how your soul flinches when they withdraw attention. And that is where the game begins. Most men believe strength is in speech, in performing, in pleasing. But women, especially the intelligent ones, aren't looking for what you say. They're watching what you reveal without realizing it. Every compliment you force, every anxious message you send, every time you try to fill the silence with your voice, you're not gaining ground. You're giving it away. Because women don't steal power. They receive what you surrender. And most men, sadly, surrender it without ever knowing. The world has trained you to chase, to fix, to explain. To think love is earned by being loud, clever, charming. But nature knew something else. Stillness is power. Silence is presence. A man who does not explain, does not apologize, does not flinch. That man is a storm in disguise. And she feels it, even if she can't name it. When you don't react, she starts to. When you don't move, she gets curious. When you don't chase, she leans in. Why? Because now, you're the unknown. And nothing captivates a woman more than a mystery she can't decode. Want to win without saying a word? Then stop proving and start holding the line. Because the moment you speak just to be accepted, you've already lost the battle you didn't even know you were in. They told you to be charming, to be successful, to speak well, dress sharp, make her laugh, earn her attention. You followed the script. You tried to be the better man. And yet, she still drifted, still pulled away, still seemed bored. Why? Because no one told you the real secret. It was never about what you said. It was always about what you are when you say nothing. Presence. That's the weapon you were never taught to use. Not charisma, not cleverness, but stillness, depth, poise under pressure. The kind of presence that can sit in silence and not fidget, not fill the air, not seek validation. That's not just attractive. That's terrifying to her. Because most men are noisy. They react. They explain. They need to be seen, heard, approved. But a man who doesn't flinch in silence? That man rewrites the power dynamic without speaking a single word. You see, performance is a mask. Presence is your face. Performance is insecure. It asks, am I good enough? Presence answers, I don't care. You were raised to perform. Society rewarded you for it. But nature doesn't care about your resume. It only responds to raw power. The kind that doesn't chase. The kind that doesn't negotiate with chaos. The kind that knows who he is without her applause. When you speak to impress, you're beneath her. When you speak from presence, she leans in, without knowing why. Because in a world of men performing for her attention, you become the only one who doesn't need it. That's when she notices. Because power doesn't shout. It doesn't explain. It whispers. And a whisper from a man who doesn't need to be heard echoes louder than all the desperate noise of the others. So stop asking, what should I say to win her? Ask instead, who am I when I say nothing? Because that answer shapes everything. You want presence? Then stop performing. Kill the character. Become the man. There's something she fears more than being rejected, more than being abandoned, more than being betrayed. She fears a man she cannot read. You see, most men are predictable. You text back fast when she pulls away. You explain yourself when she gets cold. You overreact when she tests your boundaries. You think you're being honest. But she sees everything, your fear, your craving, your weakness, without you saying a word. That's not intimacy. That's exposure. And exposure without strength invites one thing: control. When she knows what buttons to press, she'll press them. Not out of cruelty, but out of instinct. To see if you're the man, or still the boy. And the boy? He panics. He argues. He pleads. The man? He does nothing. Not to punish, but because he has no urge to explain. No need to convince. No fear of loss. That man becomes unreadable. And in that silence, something shifts. The woman who once felt in control now feels unsettled. Because suddenly, she's not the mirror. Now you are. And she's forced to look into herself, without distractions. Your silence makes her question. Your calmness makes her wonder. Your detachment forces her to feel. And that's where attraction is born. Not from your effort, but from your absence. Because mystery isn't built by playing hard to get. It's built by genuinely not needing to be gotten. This is the man she can't decode, can't manipulate, can't dominate. And that's magnetic. Because in a world where everyone is trying to prove something, the man who doesn't try becomes the prize. So here's your test. Can you be that still? That silent? That composed? Can you let her confusion rise without rushing to fix it? Because when she finally speaks to break the silence, she won't be testing you. She'll be seeking you. Next, want real power? It starts where most men break. In silence. Most men think silence is passive. They think detachment means you don't care. That walking away means weakness. That saying nothing means you lost. They couldn't be more wrong. Detachment, true detachment, isn't the absence of emotion. It's the mastery of it. It's the strength to feel everything and react to nothing. Because here's the brutal truth most never hear. Every time you react, you give her the blueprint. You show her where you're soft, where you're insecure, where you crave approval, attention, validation. She doesn't need to hurt you. She just needs to see where you'll hurt yourself. Craving is slavery, disguised as romance. You crave her reply. You crave her reassurance. You crave her coming back. But nature doesn't respect craving. It respects restraint. She doesn't admire the man who needs her. She admires the man who wants her, but could walk away in silence without looking back. That silence is not distance. It's dominance. Not dominance over her, but over yourself. Most men chase peace through control, but the wise man finds peace through detachment. He watches the chaos rise and doesn't flinch. He sees the manipulation unfold and doesn't bite. He hears the insults and remains unmoved. Not because he's numb, but because he's disciplined. Because the one thing more terrifying than a loud man is a calm man. A man who doesn't beg, doesn't break, doesn't blink. Because his silence isn't empty. It's full of conviction, clarity, and command. You see, detachment isn't about rejecting her. It's about refusing to be ruled by her. And once you stop chasing her reaction, she has nothing left to control. That's when the game flips. Now she's the one uncertain. She's the one seeking. She's the one decoding silence that was once her weapon, now turned against her. Detachment is discipline. And discipline is destiny. Because the man who can walk away in peace is the man who never has to chase again. She's used to being the mirror. The one who reflects your emotions. The one who stares calmly as you explain, justify, react. But what happens when you become the mirror? When your stillness doesn't reflect her chaos, but reveals it? What happens when your silence doesn't chase, but forces her to face herself? That's when the fear begins. Because now, she doesn't see a man she can read. She sees a man she can't control. A man who doesn't flinch, doesn't fold, doesn't feed her storms with explanations or apologies. And suddenly, she's alone, with her own reflection. You see, most men give her shelter from her own emotions. They absorb her anger, her silence, her games. And they try to fix it all with validation. But when you stay still, unmoved, you stop playing her game. You stop being her emotional sponge. And now, she hears herself. Every manipulative silence she used to control you, now echoes back toward her. Every test she used to get a reaction now meets a wall she can't climb. Because silence from a needy man is panic. But silence from a grounded man? That's a reckoning. It's not absence. It's presence, weaponized. When you don't speak, she hears everything. Her own doubts, her own fears, her own behavior. And this is where the shift happens. She stops trying to provoke you and starts trying to understand you. Because the man who doesn't react becomes a riddle she can't solve, a mirror she can't look away from, a presence she can't explain but can't forget. You don't win her attention by chasing. You earn it by being the one man she can't decode. Not because you're pretending, but because you're anchored. And an anchored man does not orbit a woman. She orbits him. This is the mirror reversal, where her power dissolves and yours begins. Most men want to be understood. They crave it. They beg for it, sometimes without realizing. If she just knew what I meant. If I could just explain how much I care. But the moment you chase understanding, you've already lost power. Because power doesn't explain itself. Power doesn't need to be understood. Power just is. And no one understood that better than Nietzsche. He didn't write for the obedient man. He wrote for the dangerous one. The Übermensch, the man above the herd. Not because he dominates others, but because he has already conquered himself. You see, most men are still reacting, still proving, still shrinking themselves to be accepted. They're ruled by the gravity of her moods. Their identity rises and falls with her attention. But the sovereign man? He doesn't orbit anyone. He moves when he chooses. He speaks only when silence has said enough. He loves without needing to be loved back. And if she leaves, he does not chase. Not because he doesn't care, but because he cares more about who he is than what she thinks. That's the threshold most never cross. The point where you stop trying to win her and start trying to remember yourself. The Übermensch does not react to insult. He watches. He does not beg for closure. He closes the door himself. He does not explain his peace. His peace explains him. And when she realizes she can't shake you, can't decode you, can't move you, something primal awakens in her. Respect, longing, a strange, quiet submission to the man who needs nothing from her. Because the man who needs nothing commands everything. This isn't about ego. It's about essence. You don't become sovereign by controlling her. You become sovereign by mastering you. Now we go even deeper. There's a silence that feels like distance. And then, there's a silence that feels like power. Most men use silence to punish, to manipulate, to get a reaction. But that's not power. That's performance. Real silence doesn't come from strategy. It comes from transformation. It's not a mask you wear. It's what remains when you finally drop the mask. When you're no longer trying to be liked. No longer afraid to be misunderstood. No longer chasing peace by avoiding conflict. That kind of silence? It doesn't ask for attention. It commands it. Because when a man says nothing, but radiates clarity, the entire dynamic changes. Now, she's not confused by what you said. She's confronted by what you didn't. She feels the space. She hears her own voice echoing in it. And slowly, she starts to fold inward. Why? Because she's used to being the storm, the emotional force in the room. But now, she's the one who's unsettled. Your silence is no longer passive. It's pressure. Not abusive. Not cruel. Just immovable. And immovable is unforgettable. You're not there to argue. Not there to plead. You've simply become the presence that cannot be provoked. And suddenly, she's performing. She's trying to decode your calm. Trying to resurrect a reaction. Trying to make sense of a man who doesn't flinch when tested. But you've stopped playing. Not to win, but because the game no longer interests you. That is the transformation. Silence is no longer the tool. It's the byproduct of self-mastery. You could speak. You could plead. You could explain your truth. But why would you? Your truth now speaks through how still you remain when chaos comes knocking. So ask yourself, is your silence a tactic? Or is it who you've become? Because when silence is rooted in peace, she will feel it, and it will undo her. This is the final test. Not to win, not to prove, not to impress, but to walk away, free. Most men never make it here. They keep talking, keep explaining, keep chasing the fantasy that if they just say the right thing, she'll finally see their worth. But here's the hard truth. The woman only sees your worth when you stop needing her to. Because silence isn't just a boundary, it's a funeral. The death of the man who begged. The death of the man who explained himself to be loved. The death of the man who believed he had to earn peace through submission. And in his place, a man who walks away, not in anger, but in authority. No bitterness, no games, no performance. Just the quiet, devastating power of a man who has nothing to prove and nothing to lose. You are not the man who flinches anymore. You are not the one who stays to be tolerated. You are not the echo of her moods. You are the mountain now, still, silent, unshakable. And when she realizes she can't pull you back with tears, with silence, with chaos, she meets something ancient, something she doesn't know how to fight, because she's never had to earn her place in a man's world. Until now, you don't punish, you don't plead, you vanish, not as revenge, but as revelation. You show her what power really is, the ability to stay centered when everything around you tries to pull you off course. The man who does not orbit becomes the sun, and she'll feel it long after you've gone. That silence she once used as a weapon, now it echoes in her soul, because it's no longer hers, it's yours. So here's your question. Can you lose her, and not lose yourself? Because if you can, then you've already won. You are no longer the man who speaks to be heard. You are the man who walks in silence, and never looks back.